Hello, 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 and welcome to the Intelligent Gentleman podcast. I am your host, Milt Walker, and thank you all for joining me today. We're in part 3 of our 4-part series talking about spiritual evolution. And, if you want the full brunt of what we've been talking about, go back and listen to the other podcasts, the last 2 podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. The link is in my Facebook, but it'll be available. I'll put it in the chat afterwards if you want to stick around, and that way you can kind of go and check them out. But so this is part 3. Good evening, and welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much, Miss Renee Gunn. Good to have you here. I know you've been wanting to join, and I'm glad you were able to make it. So I appreciate it, definitely. So we're talking about. So we're just gonna quickly recap what we've been talking about so far. So first level of consciousness, which is a very basic level of consciousness that most are born into and just kind of have just naturally. You could call it survival mode, you could call it the victim mindset, you could call it a lot of different things, but ultimately it is just a beginner stage. It's a beginner stage to help acquaint you to cause and effect, to some of these laws and things that the universe has for us. And so, part of that is, feeling like things outside of you are controlling you and making you do things and have things happen to you through other circumstances and so on and so forth. It's a very detached mindset where you detach yourself from your own power, your own abilities. Good evening, Ebony, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. I appreciate you so much. So we're always manifesting. That's just part of who we are because of what our power is and who we are as spiritual beings, right? We have this power within us, and being that we think that it comes from outside of us, a lot of times we're manifesting, and we don't even know that we're manifesting the things in our life that we don't want, right? By putting so much focus on those things. And so, you're manifesting whether you know it or not. And then the second stage of consciousness is becoming aware of your power of manifestation, of the laws of the universe, and getting more deeply acquainted with those so that you start to understand why things happen the way that they happen. Understanding that, life is just, and that life wants more life, and understanding that the very basic foundation of life is goodness, is pureness, it's life, and all things that promote life, right? And so coming to understand that, you start to manipulate, you start to play with your power of manifesting. You start to declare, decree, affirm things that you want to be in your existence. And through your conscious awareness of that, that power comes to fruition, right? And then you start to see those things. And again, we're just talking about introspection. So, other people may see it as, you getting things and, they don't really deserve that. Why did they get that? Why not me? That's still that victim consciousness, right? So It's not necessarily about what other people see and what they experience. It's about you. It's about your experience and yourself. So this is a very personal journey because, of course, your spirit is your spirit, and it's very personal to you. And so, which is a great thing, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit more in this one. Regular manifestation is just focused on getting things. You just focus on, I want this, I want that, I want to be this, I want to be that, right? I want this person, I want that person, I want this person to be like this, I want this person to be like that, right? And you're focused on those types of things, and that's where you start to kind of live, for a greater part of your life, because again, you start to, if you get to that stage, right? If you get to that stage, and if you don't, then it repeats itself, right? Because life is constantly expressing itself. And so, as you are doing this, right? As you are doing this, and you are manifesting these things out into existence, and you're seeing that, and you're aware, and you're so, oh man, my brother's joining me. Positive vibes to you all. Salute, brother. All love to my friends and family. Tiffany Banks, my niece, my little love, sending love to you back. I appreciate you so much. Love you. So proud of you. You start to become aware of that, and then as you understand that, you start to understand something doesn't just sit right to you that this is where it ends, right? You start to understand that if I'm spiritual, if I'm a spiritual being, if I have this power comes from somewhere, and I come from somewhere. This being me, this power, I come from somewhere. Where do I come from? This is where your mind starts to engage in those questions, right? And as we talked about before, it's not linear. There's stages, but there's also twists and turns, and it's all playing out perfectly for you to come to your realization of your higher self, right? And so as that happens, you start to get these questions in your mind, and it causes you to start to educate yourself on how to explore, and knowing the laws of the universe, and knowing that everything is coming through you, through your experience, then that this power resides in you, and that you are connected to it through yourself. And so you start to explore that. So that's when you start to look into meditation and the more holistic ways of dealing with problems and things things in your existence that you look at as problems, right? But they're really teachers, and this is why. This tells you exactly why they're teachers, because they're teaching you about yourself, right? And so true manifestation occurs when there's a shift at the soul level, when you at your inside of you, the real being that you are. When that shifts, that's when the true manifestations start to happen. With true manifestation, you still get the things that you want and the things that you're trying to achieve, but the happiness comes from your intrinsic nature being set free. It's not from the things. It's not from this person. It's not from this bank account. It's not from this trip. It's from you becoming and unfolding into who you are becoming, right? And that's where the true manifestation and the true happiness come from. That's why you have so many people who are, sad and depressed and just generally not happy and not satisfied at these higher levels of quote unquote success and financial, achievements and so on and so forth. Because again, that is, it's something, but it's not what your soul wants. Because why? So let's explore this for a second so that you truly understand. If you come from abundance, where there is no lack, then what is the concept of wealth? What is the concept of wealth? There is no concept of wealth because there is no lack. So no one has over affluence of anything because there is no lack of anything. Therefore, when your mind has latched on to that as something to manifest, then you are literally my friend always laughs when I say literally, but literally, you have literally held yourself back from your evolving. Why? Because you cannot believe that life is abundant, but feel like you don't have enough of something. It's a direct contradiction of itself, and life doesn't contradict itself, right? Life unfolds itself, right? And so, these are the things you got to think about. So, and again, this is that state where it causes you to have these thoughts and to think in these ways and to say, well, if this is true, which we know is true, then I no longer need to believe this. I no longer need to hold on to this belief. And when you let go, and this is the key point to this third stage of consciousness, when you let go of that, then you have surrendered that back to where the level of where it resides, and therefore you allow yourself to move and progress to the next level. Okay, so that's true manifestation. You're being set free because that's ultimately what you at first you're like a child, right? At first you're like a child, like, oh man, I could be rich, I can do this, I can do that, I can do what I want to do. I don't have to worry about spending anything. I can just spend. And then that becomes, again, remember, and you have to pay attention to the signs. The signs are there for those who are wise. So when you start to see that, and then you start to look at people who have these things and you see that they're not happy, then you have to ask yourself, okay, what is true happiness? What is real happiness? Because it's not things. It's not things. So what is it? Okay? And we're going to get into that. So there's wanting, and then there's mature wanting. When you mature into your spirituality, the type of wanting that you have from becoming more of who you are. And that is, the things you want become an extension of the expression of your soul. I'm going to say that again. Mature wanting is when the things that you want become an extension of the expression of your soul. So when the things that you want line up with the expression of your soul, of who you are, you have matured. You no longer want, and there's a Bible verse that speaks about this, and a lot of people interpret it in a lot of different ways, but it speaks about it in the sense that it says, when I was a child, I played with childish things. When I became a man, I put away childish things, right? Or when you matured. When you have matured, you put away childish things, but that doesn't mean that you don't have toys. It just means that you don't view the things the same as you used to, right? It's not the source, right? It's not I am the source. What I have is not the source. I am the source. Therefore, putting myself into my proper power, I can manifest what I want into my reality. Therefore, a lot of people say, become what you want to manifest, right? Or become what you want to put out into the world. And that in some sense that's true, right? Because It's not that you need to become what you want to put out into the world. It's realize that you are what you want to put out into the world. See, that's how when you're transitioning from just manifesting into channeling. And like I said, we're calling this the channel state of consciousness, when you're just channeling. Okay, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. But yes, so your wanting is driven by the desire to be more of yourself. You don't just want things to want them. You want it because it helps you to be, because it is an expression of you being who you are. That's why you want it. And therefore, that's why when people talk about alignment, when they say, okay, am I aligned with this? And if I'm not aligned with this, it falls off. That's why. Because if it is not in alignment with what you truly want with your soul, then that's not what's going to manifest. If it's not in alignment with that, it's just not going to manifest. You're going to always run into that until it's aligned. But you have to be careful. You have to always introspect and see, it's not about the other person. It's, am I aligned with what I need to be aligned with, which is my soul, which is my higher self? Am I aligned with that? So that, and remember, it has nothing to do with physical things. It has nothing to do with money, possessions, nothing, period. It is devoid of need of anything. So it doesn't have a need. So it's not about your needs. It's not about your needs on any level. It's not about your needs. It's about, who am I becoming? What is life expressing through me? Key word, through me. Remember, the first stage, it's happening to me. The second stage, it's happening by me. Now the third stage, it's happening through me. So now you start to understand, oh, it's happening through me. Life is expressing. So whenever I get in the way of life expressing itself through me, that's when I know I'm not in alignment. That's when I know that I'm not manifesting, right? And again, when you are, before you come to this realization, you are aligned with those things. You think that those things, and you feel like those things are going to give you that happiness. When people say that, they are being truthful. They honestly do believe that. You know, they really do believe that's going to bring them happiness. You see? So it's not true. It's true in that manifestation, in that experience. When your consciousness is in that experience, it's true for you, because that is what happiness is to you, until you have learned what true happiness is. And that only comes from having those things and then not experiencing that feeling. And we're going to talk about that too. So it is actually driven by the desire to be more yourself, a better version of yourself. When you start to say, man, I want to be a better version of myself. When you start to have those internal conversations, and you're talking to yourself, and you're thinking about this, and you're meditating, and you're allowing those other thoughts that you are not the higher self that you can be. When you start to let that go, and you're starting to become what it is, then you are bettering yourself, and you're becoming a better version of yourself. Now, what does that lead to? It leads to, when we already kind of talked about it, we already alluded to it, it leads to the power of surrender. Okay? And this is the topic, this is the bread and the butter of this level of consciousness. Surrender. Some people say allowing, and it's all the same. There are subtle differences in a lot of these things, but again, these are things that you have to explore for yourself, because I always say, go out and live life and find these things out for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. I'm not trying to just tell you what to do. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just giving you, what my soul wants. This is me becoming my higher self, which is helping people in whatever way that I can, which is expressed through even my spiritual evolution, my own spiritual evolution. So I love doing this. So let's talk about a few things about surrender, right? The power of surrender, how powerful it is. First, let's talk a little bit about how when it came to spirituality, right, in the spiritual community, a lot of people, they shunned religion, they shunned all these things because of the concept of surrender, right? They didn't want to surrender to a higher power, right? They come to the understanding that they have the power within them. But again, my spiritual teacher, the way that he teaches this, in the way that I understand this, you're not surrendering to anything outside of yourself. You're surrendering to what is within you trying to emerge. See, that's the key. That's the trick, right? When you put it inwardly and you start thinking to yourself, okay, I am surrendering to what it is I am becoming. That's when you started to open up, right? You are surrendering to something inside of you, not outside. That's not what you're surrendering to. And it's not giving up. It's not about giving up. It's not you saying, okay, I'm giving up. I just, that's not what it is. And it's not something that you can see that you're surrendering to. You can't see this. But you know it's a feeling. You feel it. It's a feeling. You're like, I feel it. Like I have my own feeling of who I'm becoming. And I surrender to that because I know, the power of that. And I know life is expressing itself through me in that way. And we all have that. Some people say purpose. Some people say, destiny. It's a lot of different things that people, use to describe it. But again, it's a feeling. You just know. You get to a point where you just know this is not it for me. This is not. I haven't reached my highest point yet. Because you understand there is no highest point. So I'm gonna keep elevating. I'm not gonna sit back and be like, well, I did it. I got a lot of things under my belt. I'm pretty good. No, there's a lot more for me to do. All right, which is another key aspect of that. But we're gonna talk about that later too. So surrender is not giving up. So you're not giving up on life. You're not saying, okay, just life, whatever you're gonna do, just do it. That's not what you're saying. It is consciously letting go and going into a space of non-attachment and not detachment. You're not detaching from the world. That's not what you're doing. You're just not attached. You're not attached to any outcome. It doesn't have to happen this way for me, but I know it will happen. Example on one of my visions and things that I talk about all the time. I say, some of my community work, some of the things that I do in the community, I tell people all the time, like, it doesn't matter if it happens to me. It just needs to happen because there's a need for it. Good evening, Tracy. Good evening. There's just a need for it. It doesn't matter to me if it happens through me. To be honest, that's not the point. It really is not. I just want to see it happen. I want to see our communities be empowered and move into a different level of existence. Like not the same old levels. Like that's something I do not want. That's not something I want. And so so that's one of the things that that I talk about. Okay. So when it comes to surrender, it's consciously letting go and going into a space of non-attachment versus detachment. Okay. Now let's talk about the difference. So detachment is giving up and not playing the game, right? I'm not playing the game. I'm done with it, right? But non-attachment is I'm playing the game fully, but I'm not attached to any outcome. It's not about winning or losing to me. It's not about winning the argument. It's not about that to me. I'm not attached to the outcome. I'm enjoying the journey and I'm fully expressing myself. Am I fully expressing myself? That's the question I ask myself. Am I fully expressing myself, therefore living fully? All right. Enjoying the journey, enjoying every moment as it unfolds. Surrendering to the beauty, life, and joy that is beyond my comprehension, beyond your comprehension. It's not something that you can comprehend. So I surrender to that. And I just allow that. Right? And again, when we're talking about these things in spiritual terms, you have to understand that, a lot of things have certain qualities to it, that people put names on, but these are just qualities. So the quality of allowing, you got away from the quality of wanting to make stuff happen to allowing things to happen. You still maintain your goals, you still maintain your focus, but you allow things to happen. If something happens, okay. You still got the smile on your face, you still enjoy your journey, and you still go, you still move, you still living life fully. You're not sitting back, right? You're not surrendering to something or someone external to you, but to a greater purpose that is within yourself, right? So you're saying, okay, I don't know everything, and therefore I can't foresee everything. And since I can't foresee everything, then I'm just going to allow the things that I don't have control over. And then I'm going to focus on the things that I do. And as I focus on the things that I do, I'm going to make sure that it's aligning with who I am becoming. Not who I was, who I am becoming. Okay. And some of the tools that you use when you're doing this, and some of the things that you start to do and do more frequently, is meditation, right? I was a friend of mine, posted something and was talking about meditation, and was saying, they don't know how to meditate, or they can't meditate because they can't keep themselves from thinking about stuff. And so I told them, I said, it's not about, you're not trying to stop anything from happening. That's not what you're doing. You're not trying to stop anything from happening. You're allowing whatever comes to your mind to come, but you're not responding to it. That's the trick. You allow it to come. That could be emotions. It could be thoughts. All right. It could be feelings within your body. All of these things have their place, right? And as you practice the art of allowing those to come into your experience, but not trying to control it, then you learn the grace of surrender. And you learn that by doing so, you start to understand yourself, and you start to become aware, which is another key tool. Awareness. Practicing awareness and being aware of what you say, what you do, things that you participate in, whatever. It's awareness permeates all of your existence, so you can literally become aware of everything, right? There's a lot of practices that help you with that, but meditation and breathing exercises is another good way of becoming aware of that. By becoming aware of your breath, right, you become more aware of your movements, and as you become more aware of your movements, you become more aware of your environment, and as you become more aware of your environment, you become more aware of other beings. And right, so then at that point, now you're just aware and you're just experiencing all of this, and that joyful feeling starts to creep into you, right? Because as you start to pay attention to that which is real in every day, until it begins to permeate your awareness. That's what that means. When it starts to permeate your awareness, where you just aware, constantly aware. Right, exactly, Ebony. The interconnectedness of all things. All right. So as that happens, you become aware that you are surrendering to the will of life, which is always an expression of the will of more life. It's always going to be more life, always. If it's something that's against more life, that's not the will of God. It's not. It's just not. You're hurting someone, it's not the will of God. You're hurting yourself, it's not the will of God. Yeah. So when you start to get that understanding, see, this is why so many people look to things outside of themselves to make themselves whole. When you start to do that, it's because you don't understand that. Because you don't understand that it's not life, right? What does that mean? That means that you don't understand what life is, right? It's a very infantile stage of development when it comes to your spiritual development, and so as you have played with that and come to realize that that's not where it's not where it's at, then you start to raise your vibration higher than that and closer to the will of God. So if it's not for greater life, then it's not part of that, right? And incidentally, things become simpler at this stage. You start to, because as they say, the things that you had to manage at one level of consciousness become managed at the next level of consciousness. So therefore, which is what some people recognize as affluence and all that kind of stuff, but it becomes managed. So it's no longer part of, because you have started to focus on life focused through you, and as it focused through you, it creates more life, right? And that's how that works. And again, it can be those things, but it doesn't necessarily have to be those things. Because that is not the only expression of life, right? So just bear that in mind. And again, when you take yourself away from the outcome and how it happens, then it doesn't even bother you. It doesn't even matter to you. But a lot of times that's where people get caught up, because it's like, oh, but if I don't have this, then how can I do this? And so they get caught into that loop, where, it's a feedback loop where they constantly feel they need something, and therefore they can never surrender and let go of it. So then they stay stuck in that like a revolving door. Okay. And so surrender actually makes you powerful, right? It makes you more powerful because you are allowing for more life to flow through you. You have become a vessel for life to flow through you now, right? So therefore, you become powerful. And it's not that you are becoming powerful, it's the power flowing through you, right? So therefore, again, always paying attention to that ego and thinking, oh, well, I'm powerful. I'm powerful. No. even that terminology starts to go away when you start getting into that. You don't even talk like that anymore, because it's not even about power. There is no such thing. It's life, right? It's just manifesting life. It's not really power, because power denotes that there's an absence of it, and there is no absence of it. It's only you not having it in your focus is really all it is, right? So as you turn away from it, you put your own blinders on it. The blinders are your creation. It's not the creation, right? And part of that surrender, part of that feeling of surrender, if you ever wonder if you feel that sometimes, is a deep and abiding willingness to allow life to express through you. You have a willingness. You like, I want it to. I want life to express to me. I don't want to just be out here manifesting stuff. I mean, it was fun while it lasted. But that's not the end all be all for me. I want to be a vessel, I want to be able to feel the flow of life through me. And I love that feeling. I love when things happen for others through me. I love that feeling. That's a great feeling to me. So that's part of it, right? Another part of it is visioning, being able to have vision and being able to visualize things happening, right? And being able to keep that in your vision, right? That's a deep state of surrender when you start to have that, right? When you start to have that and maintain that. Because you can't get there on your own mental power. It's not you that's taking you there. That's not what's happening either. You're allowing it to take you there. And again, because it's a part of you, that's your destiny anyway. But the trick is because remember, when you start to get caught up into these things, you start to separate yourself from the collective, from life, right? And therefore you start to make it where, I don't want to say lose power, but you are not, you're not more of a willing vessel for life at that point, right? Because again, life doesn't go against itself, and if it's something that's against life, then it's not aligned. Therefore, it won't maintain. It's not going to maintain at that point. Okay, so those are a couple of things about that. And also, when you're letting go of what's already there, you're letting go to what is already there, even though you can't see it. So that means there's a level of trust that's involved, right? That there's trust that is involved. And I tell people all the time, like, I trust that this is gonna happen when it's supposed to happen. I'm clear about my vision and my goal, but I know it will happen when it's supposed to happen. I'm not caught up in, I want it to happen within this amount of time. I mean, you can do that, but I'm not attached to that. And incidentally, it's funny because, when they teach you these skills, when in places like, corporate America and so on and so forth, When they teach you these skills, they tell you that. So you're setting these goals, but you don't, go crazy or, take it out on other people when they don't happen, and when you set your goal for it to happen, right? Because then you have, and bringing it back to this conversation, then you have taking yourself out of alignment with yourself, because then you're starting to blame. So now you're becoming a victim again, you see. So now, you can't be a part of life and be a victim at the same time. That's not the way that it works, right? So when it comes to that, that's what you want to be thinking about. When you get the feeling of bliss, when you're feeling blissful, when you're feeling that peace and that bliss, that is your soul unfolding. That is you activating some latent power inside of you that has allowed your soul to blossom a little more. Okay? That's when you feel blissful. When you're in that moment and you feel that, you're like, this is bliss. You are allowing yourself to become more of who you are. And when you deny that, when you start to tell yourself, oh no, that's dangerous, I don't want to put myself in that position, because you feel vulnerable. If you feel vulnerable from surrendering, then you can't maintain that mindset, you see. Because if that's victim mindset, when you're thinking that something outside of you is going to, that's why some people use affirmations saying that I am protected, right? They say that I am protected, because you are. And you have to know that, you have to believe that, you have to know that, you have to allow that to happen. Sometimes we get in our own way we try to do things to protect ourselves, But some of the greatest spiritual teachers in the world, in history, were nonviolent, were peaceful people. They walked around through everything with no weapons. So just think about that for a second. How powerful the thought that you are protected is. Because when you really connect with that, then you are. And again, these are a lot of things, a lot of, high level thoughts and, concepts that you're going to want to go back and you're going to want to meditate on, listen to this a few times, go and read some other literature about it. It's funny because part of that masterclass that I was talking about, the guy he was talking about, it was, they went to a entrepreneurial retreat with some of the biggest executives on the planet, and they were all talking about the concept of surrender. So just think about that for a second. Think about that. So if at the top levels of wealth, power, control, quote unquote, they're talking about and they're thinking about surrender, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Where is the real power? Okay. So, these are the things that you're going to want to think about. These are the things that you're going to want to kind of, jot down and take a couple of times, meditating and allowing those thoughts about these things to just kind of flow through you and just, kind of permeate your being and understand, right? And understanding. Because as you awaken more power inside of you, you become more blissful. So then, it's so funny because, people ask those questions, right? They ask questions. They like, why are you so happy? Or why are you, whatever the case may be. I try to stay away from all that kind of stuff because even though I understand and I know it because I've seen it or been through it myself where people say stuff like that to me. You know, it's not really about that. It's really just kind of getting you to understand that, you know, that when it comes to this, you know, there are going to be things that distract you, you know, and understanding that as part of the collective, you know, we all have our own spiritual journey, so we all have to unfold at our own times. And so that's part of the beauty. That's like walking through the botanical gardens. One week you walking through, you see a lot of pollen on the ground. It might be messing with your allergies, you know. But you still enjoy it and you still come back the next week. And then next week, the pollen's gone, but the ground's wet. And you say, okay, all right. I love the rain. You're enjoying it. You're still enjoying it. So you come back the next week. And then the next week you come back and then you see that the buds on the flowers are starting to appear. So you start to see, and as you're watching life unfold, this is a spiritual thought, right? As you're watching life unfold, just understand that you and everyone else is unfolding in the same way. And some days, some weeks it's gonna rain, some weeks it's not. Sometimes it's gonna have a lot of pollen, sometimes it's not. You get what I'm saying? There's gonna be things. It's gonna be different. So don't. Again, when you're surrendering to life, you understand that it's not about the outcome. It's not about me being here and you being there. That's irrelevant because we are all part of the same. So it doesn't matter where you are or where I am. What matters is that I am aligned with who my higher self is to be, my greater purpose. That's what matters. And as long as that is true, then life will be life. And this feeling that you get when you start to understand this, and these things start to unfold within you, and you start to come to these realizations, that's something that you can't quantify. That's something that you can't point to anything on the physical plane and say, okay, I'm gonna do that because that feels like that. You'll never feel it like that. It's only attained in that way. And so therefore, that's what you chase. But once you tasted it, you can't go back from that. You can never say that something else is better than that, because it's not, and it won't be. It can never be. Yes, Tracy, yes. I seek to be in total alignment with myself, but I feel like I'm afraid to surrender to that feeling. That's understandable. And that's a totally understandable feeling. Again, always remember this. If you truly, truly, truly believe that the power rests within you, then there is nothing outside of you that can affect you. Nothing. And I've said this to people in so many different ways, so many different spaces. And it's amazing when I look back at how my spiritual journey has brought me here to be able to talk to everyone about this. It's amazing to me because I've said these things as I've come to understand them to other people. And it's, but yes, Tracy, it's a practice. It's something, because we're so used to allowing other things to be that focal point, allowing other things to be that our focus, that we miss the power of surrender a lot of times. We miss it. But this is the key point about this, and this is something that a lot of mental health professionals are talking about now, which is so important. So important. You have to be who you are. Now, the journey, the fun of that is discovering who you are. And I say this about the children because, you know, when you're dealing with children, you can start this very, very young, and you can set them on their path at an early age. But it's allowing them to express themselves, of course, and allowing them to discover themselves, discover the things that they like and the things that they don't like, and the things that they love and the things that they want to be. But you only do that through experience. So as you're going and you're experiencing more and more of life, see, that's what you just can't be afraid of. Don't be afraid of life. Go and experience life. And it will happen because it's a natural process. It's part of who we are. So you don't necessarily, and it's not about forcing it, you know? So don't think that you have to force it. Don't think that it's something that you're not doing while you're not doing it. That's not the thought. The thought is, what can I experience? What can I go and experience that will tell me who I am? That could be going and having a conversation with a stranger. That can be just going for a walk, you know, down in the park by yourself, listening to the nature sounds. It can be anything. And you'll find that the universe is going to speak to you in its universal language, which is through anything and everything. And so as long as you're willing to listen to it and hear it, you'll hear it. That's right. Don't be afraid of life. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Yep. Afraid that I might not know how to handle all the greatness that comes with it. Hey, and Queen Maya Angelou said that the best, right? You know, we're afraid of our own greatness. You know, we don't sing because we're afraid of our own greatness. And it's a very true thing. It's very natural for you to feel that way. Very natural. Because and I like the way in religion and in, you know, Christianity, the way that they say, you know, it's the fear of God. And the fear of God is not like the fear of man. The fear of God is not fear. It's not fear at all. It's respect. It's surrender to the fact that you have no comprehension as to how great it is. You see what I'm saying? That's what true surrender is. It's not saying that I understand anything. It's saying that I don't know. So I want to experience it, right? So, and again, remember the piece that I said, you know, people can't, you know, you can't get there by yourself. You can't get there by yourself. So you are allowing life to take you there. It's not even you doing it. You are allowing life to take you there because that's who you are. And then when you come to that realization, then you come into your power, because then you're gonna then all those words right there dissolve, all those thoughts dissolve, and it's like, wow, this is me. I am me. I am life. I am love. I am light. I am peace. And that's where it is. And I just want to thank each and every one of you who took the time out to come and listen. And please tell somebody else about it. Let them know. Because again, there's no greed in spirituality. There's no lack. So I don't need to hold any of this in. I don't even need to charge for it. I don't need to hold none of this. Because why? because I live in abundance. I don't have a lack of anything. So I don't have to hold anything, you know. And it's sometimes it's a tricky thing, you know, just like Tracy said and said, you know, and shared with us. Thank you so much for sharing, Queen Tracy. I appreciate you so much. You know, because that vulnerability is critical. Because when you can express that you don't know something, and when you when you are afraid of something, then you are, even in that, you are telling the universe, I'm looking for the answer. And therefore the answer will come. So thank you so much, everyone, for popping in, dropping by, tuning in, listening. I appreciate you all. And we'll see you on the next one for that 4th installment. Now that 4th one's going to be deep, because as you can see, that 3rd one's pretty deep too. But that 4th one's going to be really deep. It's going to be really deep. And it's about the being level of consciousness. Being. Yeah, it's going to be deep. So thank you all for listening, and we're going to see you on the next one. And remember, you are what you listen to. Peace.